Bless you, kindergarten teachers. The reason I don't teach kindergarten anymore is the same reason I sent my older two kids to school knowing just a few letters and sounds. Teaching letters and sounds is exhausting. If you've never tried to teach 20, 23 kids, all 26 letters and sounds, actually more than 26 because they have both an uppercase and a lowercase, you don't know what hard really is. So go hug a kindergarten teacher because their job is hard. I think the hardest in this school, but many might disagree. Well, a few years ago, after a break from kinder, I moved back down to kindergarten and I found something that works, and I'm gonna share that with you right now. And yes, it has to do with writing, as you would expect. But there are a few more secrets that I want to share. I'm Sarah, a first grade teacher that had big dreams as a little girl of being a best-selling author, and now I love to teach the littlest kids how to read by writing, and I'm here on the internet to share it all with you in videos. But there is a fast and efficient way to teach kids to read and write the alphabet. I have three main tricks up my sleeve when getting this big job done, and they are sign language, handwriting, and embedded picture mnemonics. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's not, I promise. I'm gonna start with the embedded mnemonics, and I might make you come back for another video to get informed about sign language and handwriting and how that helps me teach letters. And I'm always going to insert this part, how this can be done in a way that also allows me to use all the other things with fidelity that I'm supposed to be using to keep my district or administrators happy. Because we have all heard how important it is to do certain things with fidelity. Do your district stuff with fidelity. Don't be a district stuff infidel. Okay, so what are embedded mnemonics? I'm including a link to an article from the Shanahan on Literacy blog that goes more into detail about them. But in my own words, they are pictures on or in the letter, so embedded, that gives a hint for recalling the sound. And a mnemonic is a trick, a device for memory. Honestly, this is one of those mom hacks that I came up with when I was trying in desperation to help a student to learn letters. And when I noticed it was working, I immediately did some research to justify that my intuition was correct. So how do they help? These tiny pictures serve the same purpose as an alphabet linking chart does, but they are actually on or in the letter. I found this to be one more level of support for students struggling with the alphabet. And the best part about it is they don't really even need to pull their head up off the text to use the support, especially if it's a little paper decodable that I can draw on. That's another reason I love paper decodables, but I'll go into that some other time. Lifting their head up or to the side to a letter chart sounds like something that wouldn't really make that much of a difference. But if you've watched a kid struggle, you know that any little thing that you can do to take some of that mental load off of them allows them the space for their brains to function more freely. I want to do what I can to clear the resistance off their path to reading and writing. And yes, lifting their head to a letter chart does provide just a little bit more resistance than you would think. I can't make everything about school easy and fun for kids, but my job as their reading teacher is to find the path with the least resistance because they aren't going to be able to do that for themselves. This little tweak to alphabet instruction does just that. So my favorite is the short A sound for letter A. The A to me looks like an apple, and of course I forgot my binder. Let me come right back. So the A to me looks like it could be an apple with a little stem. And if you draw a little leaf on it, that can help you remember the word apple. The first sound in apple is ah. So the embedded picture helps students remember the apple. And when I roll out these letters in both kinder and first, we spend a little bit of time tracing over these letters with the embedded picture. Now that's including handwriting, and come back next time for how important that is in this routine. But right now we're talking about the little embedded picture and how that can help you. This is how I use these. I love drawing these little pictures on the letters as I introduce or review the letters with kindergartners and first graders. And if you use a paper decodable, you can draw the picture cue right there on the letters as they need them to cue their memory. you have to watch and make sure they aren't just doodling all over their letters. Like any tool, it can be misused by the kids. So honestly, that is a distraction and that's a con, but I feel like the pros definitely outweigh the cons here. I use them on practice cards like this for blending those sounds and actually reading words. And I'm doing this a lot right now with my kindergartner. So when she needs a little cue for a letter sound, I go ahead and I draw that little picture right there on it so that she can get that little extra help. She can learn the sounds, but also learn how to blend those sounds to read a word at the same time. I also like to add these letters to a personal anchor chart, kind of like this one. I like this one. And then spend a few minutes each day tracing over the letters and doing a little chant, A, apple, or A, apple. I know there's some debate on if you do the sound first or the word, but you do whatever you feel is right there. And by the end of the 6 weeks, all the letters and sounds have been introduced and blended to read closed syllable words. And just think about, just think even here. These are just the ones that I have introduced to my my almost kindergartner. And think of all the words I can make here. Is, am, and, has, man. We're reading all kinds of closed syllable words right now. So how do I use these and do all the other stuff I need to do with fidelity? Of course, we love our jobs. We want to continue to do them. So we do all of the things our district wants us to do with fidelity. But how would you also incorporate this if you've got so many other things to do? Well, like I mentioned before, I draw this letter on the board during the handwriting time when I introduce the letter, review the letter, and I mention it quickly, like, hey, look here, there's a little apple leaf on this apple stem because this A looks like an apple. And to reinforce that, I use this chart during fluency practice or shared reading time when there usually isn't much to do there with fidelity, but we know fluency time is important in our instruction. So at the beginning of the year, I had one of these charts all filled out. It's something I did with my marker on a blank paper, and I made a copy and laminated it and handed it out. I'm sure you could find something similar to this somewhere for sale if you want to just buy it, or I could come up with something, I'm sure. But you don't have to. You can make your own, just like I do here with my kid, just like I've done with my class. If you needed to incorporate anything from your required curriculum, that's where you can. If they use an apple for the sound a, that is, you could use that, or you could come up with your own that also align with that curriculum that you're expected to use. If you're homeschooling, of course, you do whatever you want with fidelity, and you can embed whatever pictures you think would serve your children best. But I'm going to give you a little hint here. I love to consider the letter in sign language when choosing the picture cue. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss when I go over sign language for letter learning, because that was another trick up my sleeve that I will cover another time. So back to this letter chart with picture cues. It stays in their binders, and we come to the carpet and we sing or chant it together, much like I did with my child at home when we were getting ready for kindergarten. And I have a YouTube short, or I have some short form videos of us doing that somewhere. I'll find them during a basketball tournament together. And I only did this as a group with my class for like the first couple weeks at the beginning of the year, especially because especially if there weren't that many kids that needed letters and sounds. We did it during fluency practice, which later on in the year, I'll be singing and reading poetry a lot. So this was an easy way to talk about how we come to the carpet and all the expectations, like where your eyes go, where your body goes, how you hold your binder, and other carpet time rules. But we just, at the carpet, we'll go A, apple. This is an H with a tiny hat. H says hat. Says, represents, whatever you want to say there. But I use this a lot more in small group with the kids that were struggling with letters and sounds. We did this together instead of an alphabet arc because this required that they trace or write over the letter. And there is the reading and writing connection that my instruction revolves around. I've noticed that tracing over the letter as they say the letter or sound is much more active, and it helps make a stronger connection between the symbol on the page and the sound that symbol represents. And it also gives them less to fiddle with and much less for you to manage as a teacher. And I am always going to find the path with the least resistance for both you and the student, because that is the path that minimizes the cognitive load. If you are rummaging through manipulatives at your small table, you are increasing that resistance towards your goal of letter learning. And you're increasing your cognitive load. And if you haven't heard about cognitive load theory, you should definitely go search cognitive load in your podcast app and learn more about it, because it's such great information for teachers. And I've linked an article from Doug Lemov about cognitive load theory if you want to start down that rabbit hole. It's a fun one. And I think I have another one somewhere about writing and cognitive load. I'll make sure to find that and link it too. And then of course, when we're in a paper decodable, or practicing reading single syllable words in small groups, I can draw this cue right there in the book to help them in a way that doesn't even require them to move their heads away from the page. So these tiny picture cues for the letters is one way that I help kids learn letters fast. But like I said before, there are a few more things that I do along with these tiny pictures that give them even more support on their reading journey. Come back for more and subscribe so you don't miss when I get that video up.